Direct from our newsroom in New York, this is the CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite. And in Washington, Daniel Shore, Bob Schieffer, Bruce Morton, Barry Seraphin, and Charles Kuralt on the road tonight in Herrick, Illinois.
Good evening. There was a happy reunion today in Cartel, Turkey, where that teenage girl held hostage for 51 hours was rescued by Army commandos. Weeping and shaken, the girl was checked at a hospital and then reunited with her parents. Here is Bill McLaughlin's report.
The house is surrounded by hundreds of Turkish soldiers and police. In the third-floor apartment is a 14-year-old girl. She's being held prisoner by two young men the government says are part of the extreme left group that murdered the Israeli consul general in Istanbul last month. The Turkish army refuses to bargain. Army men poised on ladders and ropes move in through the windows and onto the balcony. They force their way past makeshift barricades, keeping up a barrage of machine gun fire. Inside, one of the young rebels, Hussein Shebahir, is killed. The other, Mahir Kayan, is wounded and captured. The army and the police try to keep him away from the captured girl's father, himself an army major, and from the cheering crowd that's been threatening to lynch the young rebels. Miraculously, the young girl, Sybil Erklan, has escaped harm in the assault on the apartment. She's taken to hospital with nothing worse than a case of shock. The crowd, which has been waiting here for 3 days, is wild with joy, and its hero is clearly the Turkish army. The loser seems to be the so-called Turkish People's Liberation Army, a group of young extreme leftists that's been trying to stir up revolution in Turkey. So far, all their actions have done is to whip up popular support for the army-controlled Turkish regime. Bill McLaughlin, CBS News, Kartal, Turkey.
Alone, across 3,000 miles. A watch doesn't just have to tell time, it has to work with your sextant to plot your course. 1 minute off and you're 15 miles off course. I was lucky. Thanks to my 4-year-old Accutron watch and my 50-year-old cast-iron stomach, I, Tom Follett, hold the American record for the fastest single-handed sailing across the Atlantic.
A watch that's become a scientific instrument.
You know, I'm a lucky guy. In college, I won the Heisman Trophy. Then I won a lease. And now I'm a grandfather. But staying on the young side to enjoy these good things takes a lot more than luck. It takes sensible exercise and sensible eating. Like Kellogg's Product 19, the high-potency cereal with all the minimum daily adult requirements for vitamins and iron.
Tastes good, too. Doesn't it, Lucky?
Want to get back on the young side? Start with Kellogg's Product 19.
There was more heavy fighting today in Cambodia, this time near the capital city of Phnom Penh, where government forces said they killed 200 communists. At least 50 Cambodians were reported wounded in that dawn-to-dusk battle. Another 700 enemy troops were said to have been killed by U.S. aerial bombardments near the border town of Snoel, with South Vietnamese soldiers abandoned yesterday in the face of a large enemy force. Today, however, Allied officials in Saigon and at the Pentagon said there was no retreat from the key crossroads town. They said it was a planned and orderly withdrawal prior to the monsoon season. Despite recent demonstrations, there are, of course, Vietnam veterans who believe that the war in which they fought is a moral one. They also believe in the Nixon administration and its long-range goals for ending the war. And some of them were in Washington today, and Bruce Morton reports.
The men who have fought the war, like other Americans, disagree over the worth of what they did. About 1,000 Vietnam veterans against the war came here in April to demand its end. One of their spokesmen, John Kerry, startled the Senate Foreign Relations Committee with the eloquence of his call for peace. Today, the Vietnam Veterans for a Just Peace held a news conference. They were generally short-haired and pro-administration. They rejected the idea that they were war criminals, veterans of an immoral war. One, John O'Neill, just out of the Navy, had served in the same unit as anti-war vet John Kerry.
I am a Vietnam veteran. As a matter of fact, I was in the same unit as Mr. Kerry while in Vietnam, Coastal Division 11. On the basis of our shared experiences, I would like to make a few observations. I don't agree with Mr. Kerry's testimony. 500,000 Vietnam veterans have joined the VFW and the American Legion. Certainly Mr. Kerry does not speak for them. Over 1 million of the 2.5 million Vietnam veterans remain voluntarily in the armed forces. Certainly Mr. Kerry does not speak for them. Mr. Kerry speaks for no one, except himself and his embittered little group of 1,000 out of a total of more than 2.5 million Vietnam veterans. I believe in America, and I believe in the principle of self-determination of peoples. And I believe, from my own experience, that the Vietnamization policy of the President is the correct way to achieve this goal. So do the great majority of Vietnam veterans. We don't often come to Washington. We have schools to attend, jobs to work at, or maybe we're still in the armed forces far away from home. The President does our talking for us, as with most Americans. Mr. Kerry certainly does not.
The Vets for a Just Peace say they speak for 95% of the Vietnam veterans, though the 3-week-old organization claims only 5,000 members so far, fewer than the anti-war vets. They do not plan demonstrations, but they are anxious for debates, and they have challenged anti-war vet John Kerry to argue the other side. Bruce Morton, CBS News, Washington.
A different kind of anti-war group has descended upon Washington. Its sole aim to pick up the mess left behind by the more conventional and destructive demonstrators last month. Barry Seraphin reports.
In the weeks since the demonstrations, members of the Mennonite Church from Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Delaware have been quietly coming to Washington to undo some of the destruction left by the protesters. After picking up glass and litter, they began rebuilding park benches and other structures on the Washington Monument grounds, which demonstrators stripped to build bonfires.
We are here to demonstrate the love of Christ, that men may be reconciled to you and to each other in these times. We thank you for this privilege to do something constructive to help to build. And we will give you the praise. In Christ's name. Amen.
It is that simple philosophy more than personal politics that brought the Mennonites here. Many of the workers are from rural areas and are skilled craftsmen who attack the job with zest. The members of the church took on the rebuilding project under the auspices of the Mennonite Disaster Service, an organization that traditionally offers aid after natural disasters such as floods and hurricanes. Their anti-war feelings are as strong as those of the most fervent protester. And both young and old members of the church, preferring prayer and what they call a positive approach, have donated thousands of man-hours to the repair work.
Oh, we come out of love. We believe we have a good government. And we don't think that to destroy government property is the way that is the answer to the whole problem.
They've gotten right into the work on these benches. They came in here with 40 people the first day, and we had to keep 3 trucks going to keep them busy and bring in 3 generators. I never saw anything like it in my life.
On this last day of the rebuilding project, the Mennonites vowed to stay as late as necessary to finish the job.
Their work done here, these modern-day Good Samaritans will leave for their homes and farms with no more fanfare than when they came. There will be no news conferences or press releases. The Mennonites neither seek nor expect even a thank you. Their reason for coming is clearly reward enough for them. Barry Seraphin, CBS News at the Washington Monument.
Hi, I'm Arlene Francis. Eating and running. No wonder we get indigestion and heartburn. You know what I do? Look, 3 antacids, all bestsellers, 2 roll type, 1 little tablet. The surprise is the little one is the big one. It consumes more acid than either of the others. It works because it's concentrated. When you feel that burning, do what I do. Take Phillips tablets. They're smaller, but they're stronger.
You're kidding. A pain reliever arthritics don't have to take every few hours?
New Bayer timed release aspirin is here. Twice the usual amount of aspirin. And aspirin is the pain reliever doctors recommend. Released gradually for fast relief that lasts. You don't take it again for 8 hours. 2 tablets to relieve minor arthritis pain at bedtime help you sleep. Wake without morning stiffness. New Bayer timed release aspirin, wherever regular Bayer is sold.
Just back from Europe is a discouraged group of relatives of American servicemen missing or held prisoner in Southeast Asia. The group visited Paris, Geneva, and 9 other European capitals trying to hurry their freedom. Bob Schieffer was in Washington today for the group's news conference.
The women said they found no progress on the prisoner issue during their trip, and the group's national coordinator said the time has come for the administration to offer new proposals to end the war and get the prisoners back.
In no other war in history have prisoners been used to this degree to bargain for political concessions. It seems to us that the whole question of peace in Indochina has now been focused by both sides on the prisoner of war issue. If the handling of the prisoners truly is a major stumbling block, then it seems to us that it can be solved very easily by relatively minor moves by both sides. It's difficult to imagine that our relatives in Southeast Asia can survive any more extended wranglings and negotiations. The North Vietnamese have told us that they do not intend to take the first step. They do not intend to release and account for our relatives until after the date for total withdrawal has been set. We can, therefore, only hope that the President and his negotiators in Paris are prepared to initiate other means of resolving the war in Indochina and securing the release and accounting for our men.
The League represents about 2,000 relatives of men who are missing or captured in Indochina. Last week, a group of relatives accused the administration of using the prisoners to stall the American withdrawal in order to give the South Vietnamese more time to build up their own forces. This is the first time, however, that the group leadership has openly criticized the administration. Bob Schieffer, CBS News, Washington.
President Nixon holds another nationally televised news conference at the White House tonight, and live CBS News coverage will begin at 8:30 Eastern Daylight Time. Yesterday, the aluminum industry settled with its workers for a 30% wage increase over the next 3 years and then promptly raised prices by 6%. Today, the White House said the president feels this created a serious problem for the nation and represented a pattern that must be broken to achieve wage and price stability. But the White House spokesman said the president did not now contemplate any government action. He did warn, however, the steel industry that a similar settlement of its negotiations this summer could turn American users to foreign products. The Supreme Court, for the second time in 2 weeks, has limited the power of police to make arrests for loitering, and it has declared that laws against loitering, if they are to be constitutional, must be specific. By a 5-3 vote, the court overturned as too vague a Cincinnati law barring persons assembled on a sidewalk from behaving in a manner annoying to passersby. The court acted in the cases of an anti-war protester arrested outside a selective service headquarters and workers picked up while picketing a manufacturing company. Chief Justice Warren Burger cast one of the dissenting votes. Last week, the court reversed on grounds of vagueness the conviction of a black man found late at night in an all-white area of a Cleveland suburb. Another Supreme Court decision today gives the court stronger authority to prevent rail and airline strikes. The court ruled 5-4 that the Railway Labor Act permits federal judges to issue anti-strike injunctions if unions fail to make reasonable efforts to reach a contract settlement. The decision allows court action even before the lengthy procedures of government mediation are completed. A 4-4 tie vote in the Supreme Court has defeated the effort of a Michigan factory worker to get his job back. The vote, in effect, upheld a lower court ruling against the man who was fired for refusing overtime work on Sundays because of his religious beliefs. The averages were generally higher today on the New York Stock Exchange. The volume was on the low side, 11,900,000 shares. The average price per share rose 26 cents on the New York Exchange and 7 cents on the American.
My wife is incredible. She took care of the baby all day, cooked a great dinner, and even went to a school meeting. And look at her. She's in better shape than any of her friends. Of course, she takes care of herself. Gets her rest, does sit-ups, watches her diet, and to make sure she gets enough iron and vitamins, she takes Geritol every morning. Makes me take it, too.
More than twice the iron of ordinary supplements, plus 7 vitamins. Take care of yourself. Take Geritol.
My wife. I think I'll keep her.
It's hot here. Not too great for shaving with an electric razor. But I'll use Electric Shave Frost Lime. Electric Shave cuts perspiration. Sets up his beard. The shave goes smooth. No irritation, no sweat. And it'll feel barber close. Does that feel barber close? It feels barber close. If it's hot where you are, use Williams Electric Shave Frost Lime. Next!
The Swedish press, reporting what it thought to be a bit of international intrigue, said today Israeli Prime Minister Golda Meir interrupted a visit to Sweden to go to Lapland for secret weekend talks with Russian officials. The report said they discussed the fate of Soviet Jews and Russian-Israeli relations. Well, Mrs. Meir did visit Lapland, but has denied the secret talks. She added, however, "I wish the story had been true." The White House says Cuba has passed the word that tomorrow it finally will release the Pan American Airways jetliner hijacked to Havana last Saturday. The Castro regime now has detained this plane and its 69 passengers longer than it has any other. There was speculation Castro was holding out for the release of 4 Cuban fishing boat captains held since last week for allegedly fishing in U.S. waters. But Washington officials insist they know of no connection between the 2 cases or of any present plans to drop charges against the 4 Cubans. Congress returned to work today after the Memorial Day recess, and it saw the launching of a new campaign for President Nixon's controversial plan to share federal revenues with the states. Daniel Shore reports.
A bipartisan rescue effort for revenue sharing started today here on Capitol Hill, by no coincidence on the eve of the House Ways and Means Committee hearings, where Chairman Wilbur Mills is out to kill the plan. Republican leader Gerald Ford called a news conference to head Mills off at the pass, and a pro-revenue sharing Senator Muskie called his own pro-revenue sharing hearings.
Chairman Mills has publicly stated that the committee will hold hearings not to pass the bill, but to kill it. He's probably going to be the executioner unless the mayors, the county officials, and the various officials at the state level make the strong kind of presentation that they can make in getting this committee to take affirmative action.
I believe, though there are honest differences, all of us are bound by a common desire to do what is best for the survival of our federal system.
I'd like, for the purpose of making a record that addresses itself to some of the more repeated arguments against revenue sharing, to raise them at this point.
And Muskie, himself author of one of the Senate's 3 general revenue-sharing bills, tossed up the arguments of Mills and others to let them be batted out of the ballpark by Dr. Walter Heller, the so-called father of revenue sharing.
Some people say the states and localities aren't yet worthy of revenue sharing. Others, myself included, would say if you want to give them a chance to be worthy members of federalism, you have to make some kind of federal contribution to this process of renaissance of the states. I sometimes like to put it that some people say shape up and then we'll ship out the money, and I say ship out the money and it'll help them shape up.
A few weeks ago, revenue sharing was considered dead or dying. But intense pressures from states and cities, partly stimulated by the White House, have translated themselves into growing bipartisan support. The biggest hurdle is still the Ways and Means Committee, but advocates are pinning their hopes on generating enough steam to move even Wilbur Mills. Daniel Shore, CBS News on Capitol Hill.
Activating an old 19th century statute, the federal government, after July 1st, will no longer let industries dump waste into rivers and lakes without a permit. Today, invoking another 1910 federal law, the government said no permits will be issued to dump waste into Lake Michigan from the shores of Cook County, Illinois, and Lake County, Indiana. At least 8 major factories, including 3 steel mills, will be affected by today's ruling. The 1910 statute, though, is currently being challenged in the courts by a business group. The National Transportation Safety Board, which looks into the causes of accidents, has recommended that interstate buses be required to provide seat belts and that passengers be told by signs and the driver to use them. The board also suggests a possible federal standard for stronger bus ceilings in case of rollover accidents. The federal government is putting the squeeze on the citrus fruit industry over how much water it can put in an orange drink. Under current rules, anything labeled orange juice must be 100% orange, but there are no similar standards, to the confusion of the consumer, for orange drink, orange juice drink, or orangeade. So Thursday, growers and canners will meet with the Food and Drug Administration in Washington to bargain on percentages. President Nixon's daughter Tricia doesn't marry Edward Cox until a week from Saturday, but pre-wedding activities already are underway. Today, the bride-to-be, her mother, and her sister attended a shower thrown by Mrs. Spiro Agnew. The guests, aside from female members of the immediate families, were mainly cabinet wives and their daughters. Among the gifts, it's reported, was a white and gold French telephone from Martha Mitchell. Without pictures, there was news today of the wedding cake. Work actually began 2 weeks ago on the decorations. That would be lovebirds, white roses, and pink cherries, all made of sugar. The cake itself comes from a recipe by Pat Nixon for lemon-flavored pound cake. On 6 tiers, it will stand almost 7 feet high. Despite space between tiers and some dummy hollow parts within them, the entire cake will weigh more than 350 pounds.
This is the 1971 Buick Riviera. You won't find anything like it anywhere else. Maybe that's reason enough to buy it. But there are more good reasons you should know about. Things you won't find on other cars. Like AccuDrive, a new suspension system that gives Riviera the most stable ride it's ever offered. And this interior. Just look around. Every inch of the design is functional. For instance, that control center, it wraps around you, making every instrument visible at a glance. Test drive a new Riviera soon, and come up with some reasons of your own. 1971 Buick Riviera, something to believe in.
One-man government is supposed to be an attribute of some underdeveloped countries. But on the road, in Herrick, Illinois, Charles Kuralt has found an example right in the United States. Only it's not quite accurate to say one man, as you'll soon see.
Stand back, please. Make way for the mayor. With her flashlight in one hand and her .38 revolver in the other, Mayor Maggie Kahn of Herrick, Illinois, is on her way to work. The fact that she will be 76 on her next birthday doesn't slow her down any, as you will find out if you get in her way. Mayor Maggie is the law in Herrick. Also street engineer, health inspector, marriage counselor, fire commissioner, and dog catcher. Before she became mayor, there wasn't any public water system in Herrick. Now there is, and heaven help you if you don't pay your water bill.
Call them up and tell them that if they don't pay it by tomorrow morning, we're shutting the water off. See, that usually scares them. They get on to pay, see. That's about all of that. That's the job of being a water commissioner.
Maggie Kahn was born in this town in 1895, but she ran away from home at 18 and became a soft-eyed singer and dancer on the Orpheum circuit, sharing bills with the likes of Jimmy Durante and Jack Benny under the stage name of Bobby Adams. After 2 marriages went on the rocks, she came back to Herrick to be with her ailing mother. And now, going on 76, she has found her great role at last. It's the same one Gary Cooper played in High Noon. I would think that some people would take advantage of a lady mayor.
Not this one, they don't. Nobody takes advantage of me. Whether she's a mayor or anything else, they never have. Listen, son, when you fight the years in show business all by yourself, the way I've had to fight, and through those 10 years on Broadway among the gangsters and I love a good fight. See this nice long street and all that way down there? This is a beautiful drag race place, and they just used it when I first took over. And so to stop them, I used to come and park around that corner down there, and I had my gun and a flashlight. So I'd walk out in front of them and do this, and that means you stop when a flashlight goes that way. Well, they didn't stop. Then when they got to me, I would say, stop or I'll shoot. And they didn't stop, I shot right through the tail end of their car, see? If I hit the gas tank, it's all right, see? But that's how I stopped the drag racing here on this avenue here.
Herrick was founded as a wild little town 100 years ago, and its reputation hung on until 6 years ago, when Maggie Kahn got elected in a write-in vote, 151-2, and set about calming things down.
Mayor Maggie hates clutter even more than drag racing. As fast as Herrick's ornery beer drinkers clutter up the streets with beer cans, Herrick's ornery mayor picks them up.
We've got people here in this town, they don't care about cleanliness, they don't care about keeping anything nice. I just don't know. Those kind of people I just can't understand.
Doesn't that discourage a mayor?
It's discouraged. Let me tell you something, son. There's been many a time that I've sat here at this table and cried. I'd be so discouraged and so upset at the minds and the tempers of the people in this town that if I could pick this acre up and this house and put it in a suitcase, I'd have been going a long time ago.
Well, why do you keep on being mayor if it's...
They keep electing me! Hi there, darling. Hi, honey. You got a kiss for me?
Exasperated as she gets with her town, Maggie Kahn is proud of it, too. She's given up on a lot of the old folks, but she has